and Environment Committee. Committee members present, Hyde Clark and Deb Zamer. Staff, Shanika Jackson, our clerk, Brian Jimenez, and Jake Eisen, our staff. Today we're going to be discussing two resolutions for street namings. Resolution 7772.24R, a resolution of the Common Council honoring the life and legacy of Gail S. Elliott and renaming a portion of Northern Boulevard in her honor. And Resolution 128-112-24R, a resolution of the Common Council honoring the life and legacy of Jeffrey S. Fryer, Sr., and renaming Slingland Street in his honor. Up first will be Resolution 7772-24R, and we'll ask Councilmember Jamel Robinson, the sponsor, to say words if you'd like.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's an honor to speak on behalf of this street renaming for Ms. Gail Elliott. She has spent decades in service to Albany's youth and education. She worked for the Albany School District for over 25 years, and she served as the director of the Summer Youth and Program for over 20 years, and providing hundreds of young people with meaningful summer opportunities, work opportunities. She was also a community leader and engaged with her community. She served on the board of directors for the Whitney Young Health Center, contributing to accessible health care in the city of Albany. She was known as the matriarch of the West Hill community for her tireless advocacy for equity, education, and overall community well-being. So it's a pleasure to name the portion of Northern Boulevard where she lived and worked in her honor.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Can I get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to move Resolution 7772-24R out of committee with a favorable recommendation.
All in favor? Any nays? Any abstentions? Thank you. The next resolution is 128-112-24R. We'll have Councilmember Adams say a few words.
Thank you, Chair. This evening, I would like to speak on Jeffrey Fryer in regards to the street renaming. Jeffrey Fryer was an educator, a coach, and also a strong community service advocate here in the city of Albany for many decades. Jeff, his wife, they raised their son here in the city of Albany. Their son is a graduate of Green Tech Charter School where the street renaming is happening. Jeff also was a coach in various collegiate schools here in the area, from RPI to St. Rose, as well as Bryan and Stratton College. Over the years, Jeff and his family and his church family worked very hard to invest into the community through community service projects, through giving back. This street renaming is really to honor Jeff's legacy over in that area at Green Tech. As I mentioned, his son graduated there, and years after, Jeff continued to assist the school in his earlier years in development, running a mentor program out of the school. And this is coming up on 8 years or so, where we've also been doing the Jeffrey Fryer Feed the Community event in partnership with Green Tech Charter School. As I mentioned, giving back was one of Jeff's greatest characteristics, and so every year we partner with the charter school to provide families in the community meals during the holidays to be able to assist. So I want to bring this to everyone's attention and hope that you can support the street renaming in honor of Jeffrey Fryer. Thank you.
Thank you. You answered my question. I was going to ask you a question, why is it near Green Tech, but your presentation of his involvement in Green Tech answered that question. So it's actually good to have a street there, so now all the kids that go to school there can look up and see who Jeffrey Fryer is. It's a good good street naming. Any other questions? Can I get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to move Resolution 128.112.24R out of committee with a positive recommendation.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any nays, any abstentions? No. Thank you all. These resolutions will be brought forward to the Common Council tonight for a full vote. Thank you. Taking a motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ready? Okay. All right, welcome everyone to the Monday, November 18th caucus and work session of the council. It's our work session prior to our regular meeting. Mr. Jimenez, please call the roll.
Adams,
Present.
Anane, Ballerin,
Aquí.
Clark, Farrell,
Here.
Flynn,
Here.
Frederick,
Here.
Hoey,
Here.
Johnson, Keegan,
Here.
Kimbrough,
Here.
Love is absent, Robinson,
Here.
Ramirez is also absent, Zamer,
Here.
11 present. We are currently joined by City Clerk Shaniqua Jackson, Research Counsel Jake Iceland, Senior Assistant Corporation Counsel Brett Williams, Legislative Director Brian Jimenez, President Corey Ellis, and Junior Policy Analyst Alyssa Kamara.
Thank you. Okay, so jumping into our agenda, we'd like to do those two resolutions out of order prior to public comment, Mr. President. So we'll start with resolutions 125, 112, 24R by Ms. Keegan in support of Unified Ireland, and then followed by 126, 112, 24R by Mr. Hoey celebrating the Falcons boys soccer team. So after we do those out of order, we'll jump to let's see, approval of minutes from the previous meeting, which I'll offer the minutes from our November 4, 2024 meeting minutes for passage. And moving along. We'll start with Ms. Frederick's local law K, 2024's local law overriding the tax levy limit for fiscal year 2025. This was discussed and passed at the November 13 Finance Committee meeting. Did you want to say anything about it?
Yeah, this passed out with unanimous recommendation to be voted on this evening. What this does is it overrides the tax levy limit for only fiscal year 2025 because we are requesting combined funding for capital city funding and Empire State Plaza, and that combined increase to permanent funding would require us to override the tax levy. So hopefully that ask does happen and our city does receive that $35 million, and with that we have to adjust for 2025.
Thank you. The next will be Mr. Robinson's ordinance 67-112-24. It's authorizing the sale of property located on Livingston Avenue to the Underground Railroad History Project. That'll be a referral to the council's finance committee. Next, by Ms. Frederick, we'll have ordinance 28-101-24. It's the budget ordinance. I'll let you speak to that.
All right, so we've reached the hopefully final point of budget season where we are voting on the budget this evening. Just to recap where we landed, we are going to pursue amendments for the following. We're going to increase the city clerk's office for additional furnitures and fixtures to upgrade their desk. We're going to increase software licenses for the city clerk to allow for animal control to have access to the pet registry to be more efficient in their operations. We are going to increase various items for the Violence Prevention Task Force to have funding so that they can do outreach, get supplies, and do research and training. Big materials that we are pursuing an additional $40,000 for the fire department for additional training. During their presentation to us, they expressed an interest in enhancing their training, and this would allow them to do so. We are also going to pursue $75,000 for a workforce and ethics audit to be overseen by the city auditor's office this year. The work that Councilmember Keegan has done in the ad hoc committee has been very eye-opening to date, and it does require a more deeper look into the allegations, and so we would request that the city auditor's office oversee an audit in fiscal year 25. We are also going to pursue $70,000 for additional contractual expenditures to the Community Police Review Board. This would allow for them to have more funding this transition year as they look to fill the vacancies that they have with their new positions. And then finally, we are pursuing $125,000 for housing-related services under the Common Council. So we had a lot of discussion on this particular topic. Obviously, we have heard more recently that our vacancy study did not qualify us to pursue rent stabilization. We have also heard that the city auditor's office is pursuing a housing audit this year. And so all that being said, we are in a housing crisis. While we don't necessarily know what this 125 would be used for right at this very moment, we do know that there will be a necessary council vote to see how we would pursue that 125 and put it to good use. And I'm hopeful that some options could include reviewing the recommendations from the audit and pursuing some other housing options, or as a body potentially agreeing to additional look into the vacancy requirements if needed. So it keeps the door open. It's not a end-all be-all solution today, but it is something that would require a majority council vote in order to allocate the 125 towards its use. That's where we landed in terms of a compromise, I would say. So I know we are probably split as a body on this topic, and it could allow for further discussion in the future. Any questions on and then the rest of it are various adjustments, net zero adjustments, and then some adjustments that the administration had post-budget. Any questions on the amendments that we're doing this year? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Frederick. Okay, next, moving on to an ordinance by Ms. Frederick for amendment. It's ordinance 38-102-24. It's the traffic engineering electric vehicle infrastructure. It's for amendment. It's 38-102-24. The next, also by Ms. Frederick, ordinance 61-102-24. It's in relation to, the renaming. I think the last ordinance we had switched Lincoln Park and, Hoffman Park and Arbor Hill, or West Hill Community Center. So the correct is Hoffman Community Center. It's up for amendment. 61-102-24 ordinance. The next, under resolutions, I went through the first two, 125 and 126. We're going to open the meeting with those and call folks out of order. And then next, by Mr. Flynn, resolution 127, 112, 24 Rs, resolution the council recognizing November 24 as Epilepsy Awareness Month. Be a pass. Then next, by Mr. Adams, his resolution honoring Jeffrey Fryer and renaming Single Street in his honor, that passed the General Services Committee this evening with a positive recommendation, so we'll be moving forward with that. That's 128, 112, 24R. The next, by Mr. Anani's resolution 129, 112, 124. By Mr. Anani's, the seeker for ordinance 2791-24. There'll be a referral to the council's planning committee. And next, also by Mr. Anani's resolution 130, 112, 24 hours, resolution of the council expressing concerns regarding introduction of Amtrak service to the city of, to the service to the city of New York will be a pass. We'll be voting on it, on that one. On to resolutions held by Mr. Robinson, Resolution 7224R. It's a resolution honoring Gail Elliott and renaming a portion of Northern Boulevard in her honor. That was in the General Services Committee meeting also this evening and passed with a positive recommendation. So we'll be moving forward with that. Then we've got, but under resolutions held, resolutions held, Ms. Frederick's Resolution 108, 101, 24 hours, resolution of council establishing locally adjusted base proportions, homestead, non-homestead. That was a part of the meeting on the 13th, passed the positive recommendation. We talked about it also in caucus. We'll be moving ahead with that. And then lastly, by Ms. Frederick, it's Resolution 123, 112, 24R, and it's the budget intent memo, which we'll be moving forward with also. Did you want to, I mean, you kind of went through everything. If you want to touch on that, the memo?
I can wait till comments on the legislation. We distributed this via email. It goes into a little bit more detail on other initiatives outside of amendments as well that we would like to pursue, but it's pretty comprehensive of everything I just discussed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So with that, we're through the agenda. I would like to mention, and I forgot to mention it in caucus the other day. We talk about the leadership meetings that we've been having, and you know it's hit or miss, and I kind of am critical of it sometimes, saying that we could be doing more and sharing and discussing more. With that being said, the appointment of Mr. Conti in place of Ms. Romero, as well as Ms. Francini as the judge, we had a leadership meeting the day prior to that, okay, and none of that got mentioned. And I'm not trying to cause a stir, never brought up. And as a matter of fact, I had a discussion towards the end of the meeting regarding getting notifications of events that occur in the rotunda, like promotions, fire department, police, and this, that, and the other. That's how we ended the meeting, with me saying members are really upset with getting late notice for these events. And both Ms. Francini and the mayor was in the meeting also. Both said, okay, all right, we'll do better with that. Meanwhile, all the while, never mentioning this promotion or any of that stuff. So that's where we're at. That's what we're dealing with. You want to say something, Mr. Jimenez?
Yeah, council staff also spoke to administration staff downstairs that day, and we were not informed of what the special event would be either. We were just told it's a special announcement.
Right. So, I mean, wrap your head around that. It doesn't make sense. We've, over the years, had a few meetings where I kind of lost it, and for just this reason, and here we are again. It just, I don't know. I feel it's like a slap in the face. Did you have something, Mr.?
Yeah, I just want to say, I got a phone call that day from the press about it. So I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, well, I did some investigating, I researched, and I found out it was for both. So the point you're saying, I don't know why we're not told. It's not a big secret. It's two public officials that are going to be appointed. Good for them.
Right.
Thank you.
So, I mean, it's...
But I look like like how do we not know is the question. Thank
Right,
you.
and that's why we didn't know, because we didn't get told. And again, we've gone back and forth in leadership whether to meet or not. We wouldn't want to not meet because maybe on the off chance they may have something they want to share. And besides, we should be meeting and having these discussions around things that are happening in the city. We did, and again, I keep saying slap in the face, especially considering the way the meeting ended, me expressing the issues that we have with it. And a day later, we have a ceremony where people get promoted, and it's big, too. And we welcome Mr. Conti back with open arms, right? But you think maybe the mayor would have had a conversation with leadership about it? Not that we can impact her decision, but certainly share, let us know what's going on. Never heard a thing.
And to go off of what Brian stated, they didn't notify my office with the Rotunda application until after 3 p.m. the day before the press conference. So we were notified late in the clerk's office.
Yeah, the question is why?
No, I just want to say that it would have been nice to know, since Mr. Conti's appointment does affect the council, as he sits on the Human Rights Commission. So now that creates a void in the commission that we will eventually have to fill.
Yeah, that's right. Right, a very active member, important piece of that commission, right? He's being taken away. Mr. Hoey.
Yeah, and I just want to ask leadership if you could follow through. I did hear a rumor that they're going to move Trey Kingston from the assessor's office to Corporation Council. And I heard it, I would just, I'd appreciate if we could, rumors are rumors, but if it's real, I think we should know about it. Thank you.
Robert McGee is going to replace Marissa. And that announcement, it was stated that it's going to come later this year.
Who? No, I believe Rob McGee, yeah, because he walks or bikes to work every day. Yeah, Rob's been working in the code space for a number of years. I'm sorry, Ms. Farrell.
I just wanted to add in, there have been, and I've certainly shared with the administration, there are times, I would say early on my tenure in leadership, that different privileged information that we wouldn't yet be able to share with the body would start to be brought up with us, and I was always very clear that I don't want to know something that I can't share with the body. Like, our function is to be the representatives of the body, but also to share information back. So there's certainly limitations with that, and we both understand and respect that, and there have been times that that's come up where it's just not something the administration can share yet for a lot of different reasons, and I respect that. This is completely different. It was just incredibly offensive. You have a colleague that we highly respect. Richard, he is an incredible council member. I'm thrilled he's serving again. To not have leadership at least checked in on about filling a vacancy, and to not, at the very least, the day before, let us know that you were going to be swearing him in. I'm beyond offended, and it takes a lot to get me there, but I really am deeply offended. It just shows zero respect, zero consideration for the council.
Yeah. So, what'd you say?
Do we have any, I'm sorry, I guess my question is, do these appointments come to the body for a vote at any point? I don't, Corporation Council.
But, yeah, so Rob McGee's appointment as Corporation Council would come before the body, but Councilmember Conti, former and future Councilmember Conti's appointment would not, nor would Ms. Franchini's appointment to City Court bench.
I have no issues with the appointees, actually. The appointees, I thought I was very excited for all the appointees. I mean, I think Rich was, a good choice because you get someone who's probably not going to run again, so you allow all new people to run clean. Rob McKee, I've known for years, and I've always thought he's an excellent lawyer. I think we're very lucky to still keep him. on our city, and I'm very excited for him. So I don't have issues with the appointees themselves. I do have some concerns that are being shared by leadership with not allowing, at minimum, leadership some discussion and some input in a conversation about, I would say, the replacement of Councilwoman Romero. I think leadership should at least have been involved in those discussions, even though it's a mayor's appointment, and I get that, but it is still a member of our body, and at least having some good conversations allows for some better relationships. So we'll see how things move on.
I would like to call to order tonight's Albany Common Council meeting, Monday, November 18th, 2024. Can the clerk please call the roll?
Adams.
Present.
Anani. Valorant.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Farrell.
Here.
Flynn.
Here.
Frederick.
Here.
Hoey.
Here.
Johnson. Keegan.
Here.
Kimbrough. Love. Robinson.
Present.
Romero. Zamer.
Here.
13 present, 2 absent.
Thank you. Can you please rise with me and say the Pledge of Allegiance, and then right after that, a moment of silence? Before we go on to our regularly scheduled agenda, there will be a motion on the floor by Mr. Kimbrough.
Thank you, Mr. President. Make the motion to take resolutions 125, 112, 24R, and 126, 112, 24R out of order.
Is there a second on that motion? Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Ms. Keegan.
I would like to notice Resolution 125, 112, 24R and ask for its passage.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Albany Common Council in support of a unified Ireland.
Thank you, Ms. Keegan. Discussion on this resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. This resolution recognizes the work and dedication that the Ancient Order of Hibernians and the Ladies Ancient Order of Hibernians has made to the Albany community, particularly with their focus on improving health and nutrition outcomes for the Albany community, and the work that they have done for the Freedom for All Ireland program. And for those of you who are not familiar with the AOH's history, prior to the 1990s, there was a significant and violent uprising concerning Northern Ireland. And the AOH and the LAOH, particularly with their work for Freedom for All Ireland, helped to bring the United States to the table to negotiate a peace treaty, which is now considered one of the most outstanding diplomatic accomplishments for the United States, also known as the Good Friday Agreement. And the Good Friday Agreement brought an end to the Troubles, which saw the deaths of over 3,500 civilians in Northern Ireland, predominantly Catholic citizens. Subsequent to this, for those who are younger than I am, you may have missed the referendums in Northern Ireland and Scotland on whether to remain part of the United Kingdom or to secede from the United Kingdom. And those two nations chose to stay, and part of the reason why they chose to stay was because they wanted to remain in the European Union. And subsequent to that, the United Kingdom decided to leave the EU, an entity or an event known as Brexit. And Brexit has had a significant impact on the ongoing peace negotiations between Ireland, Northern Ireland, and the United Kingdom. And this has resulted in failures for both sides of the executive branch of Northern Ireland's government to continue to participate in their governance structure, which has resulted in failures to appropriately spend on domestic needs such as education and healthcare. So part of this resolution also calls for a support for the continued negotiations for a unified Ireland, which subsequent to Brexit seems to be the best pathway forward for all of Ireland's citizens. So thank you to all of my colleagues for joining in support of this resolution. It is very meaningful and very impactful to the folks that have worked for generations here in the United States to bring freedom to Ireland and to address the continued two-state solution that we have with Northern Ireland.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, can the clerk please call the roll?
Adams.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Anani.
Yes.
Valorem.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Clark.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Farrell.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Flynn.
Yes.
Frederick.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Hoey.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Johnson.
Yes.
Keegan.
Yes.
Kimbrough.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Robinson.
Yes.
Zamer.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
13 in the affirmative.
Resolution passes. Continuing, are they here? Oh, okay. Come on, please.
What's up? What's up? You already know.
Very welcome. Good to meet you. Congratulations again.
Good job. Continuing on, Mr. Hoey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I notice Resolution 126, 112, 24R, and ask for its passage via a voice vote.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Albany Common Council celebrating the achievements of the Albany High Falcons boy varsity soccer team.
Thank you. Any discussion on this resolution? Mr. Hoey.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to first acknowledge Councilmember Johnson. He started the trend that we honor our athletes from the city, and because of that, we put together this resolution, but also because of the boys. They did really well this year. They got into the semifinal only the 5th time since 1983. And, you know, I want to bring up that they did lose to Shaker by 1 point, 1-0. And Shaker was number 2 in the state. They just got, this weekend, they just lost the final game. So, you know, we have a very strong team. You know, they come from an urban area. We're not like a rich school district, but, you know, with their coaches, you know, it's just amazing what they were able to do. And I want to bring up, they had a sadness during the season. About halfway through, Coach Hasty who's the assistant coach and also the JV coach. His wife passed away suddenly. And she worked for the school district, just to let everybody know. And the boys wore black armbands for the rest of the season. And they really fought, they really tried to show what they could do. And, you know, we're proud of them. And as a council, I appreciate everybody signing on this resolution. And thank you.
Further discussion? Mr. Johnson? You Ms. Farrell?
Thank you, Mr. President. Go Albany. Real simple. Thank you for putting soccer back in the forefront. There's a lot of conversation about soccer going on, you know, nationally, and so thank you for the effort. Keep repping Albany High. You know, chase your dreams, work hard in the classroom, and have some fun in life. Good job again. Thank you.
Ms. Farrell?
I've been fortunate to know some of these players since youth soccer days, and it's just been incredible to see them grow as players, but also as people. So thank you so much for making us proud on the field and off the field. We're excited to see what you do next.
Mr. Ballard?
I'll be quick. I just want to thank all the students and all the parents and family members. I know it's not easy to have a child in sports. I know it's commitment, it's time, it's effort, and you know the fruit of your labor is before you. So thank you to all the students who are doing the good work on the field and off the field, keeping the grades up to be able to play, and to all the parents and families that support our young people and keep them on the right track. So Albany has a lot to be proud of, and all of you are part of that. Thank you.
Mr. Flynn?
Well, congratulations. I don't want to make a bad thing into a good thing, but the city of Albany can do better. I see all the suburban schools. They have better fields than us. They have better programs than us. We as a council and school district can do better for you so you guys can win that. So me and Tom Hoey and Awuso, we've been fighting for the soccer fields for our kids. So we can do better for you also in the future.
Seeing no further discussions, I would like to say congratulations to the team on a successful season. Also, congratulations to the coaches for keeping them focused, for keeping them prepared, especially during what Mr. Hoey just announced that the team had to go through. Perseverance is so key to anything in life, and that's what your coaches and that's what your parents are teaching you. Even through adversity, persevere. Keep working, keep playing, and keep enjoying yourself. And so we are proud of you for being here. We're proud that you represent our city the way you have, and we will continue to support you as young men, and we will continue to do whatever we can to make sure that when you grow up, one day you'll be sitting and watching other Albany hires and congratulating them. Remember, you guys are starting something. You're going to be that legacy that other kids, when they come behind you, remember. So congratulations on a job well done. With that, can the clerk please call the roll?
Adams.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Anani.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Valoran.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Clark.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Farrell.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Flynn.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Frederick.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Hoey.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Keegan.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Kimbrough.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Robinson.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Zamer.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
13 in the affirmative.
Resolution passes. Thank you, and come up. Oh, yeah, when I was in. Now you're in the Super Bowl regularly. What?
Well, technically 4, because
On the 1, 2. Okay, we're going to get back to our regularly scheduled program. And now we'll go back to our public comment period. Tonight, public comment period, you'll have 5 minutes to speak upon any issue you wish to speak upon. At that time, council members cannot respond or answer any statements that you make. If they choose to do so, they will do so at a later time during the agenda. You will get the light will come on. Red, yellow means you have 1 minute remaining. The red means stop your comments. So with that being said, can the clerk please call the first speaker?
Mary Carter. Mary Carter. The speakers are on out there. Thank you.
Ms. Carter, when you come, please state your name and address for the record. And once the light turns yellow, you have 1 minute remaining. Then once it turns red, you have to conclude your remarks. And before you speak, council members cannot answer or refer to any statements you make. If they choose to do so, they'll do so at a later time in the agenda. So when you're ready.
Mary Carter, Delaware Avenue area. I'm here for the issues that's going on at 45 Central Avenue, Townsend Apartments. Me and my clients and some of the residents are wondering why are they going to be addressed, when are the issues going to be addressed. It's getting worse. One of the residents, he took over his mom's house and he started a fire at another resident's door and burnt the door up. This happened like a couple weeks ago, and people are in there with oxygen, and it could just blow up at any time. Nothing is being done yet about that. I mean, people are still coming in off the street, doing their drugs in the stairwell, sleeping, whatever they do. You know, it's people taking over the residents' apartments, drug dealers, family members. I mean, all of this is going on and nothing is being done about it. I brought it to Brian Quinn's attention. He keeps telling me to get this paper trail, get this, and then when I bring it to him, he can't do nothing about it. So when the residents bring it to the new manager's attention and let her know what's going on, she don't do nothing about it. Whatever they say to her, she go back and tell who said it. So where's the confidentiality at? These residents here, they're just like sitting ducks, prisoners in their own home. I don't know what else to do or what to say, because the more I go to them, it's nothing they can do. The head of security just can't do nothing. So I don't know.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Have a good evening.
You too.
Marlon Anderson. Marlon Anderson. Christine Kilb. Thank you, Ms. Ellis. And Tom Ellis is also next.
Let's just give that to the clerk, give that to our staff up. He'll pass it out. Thanks.
You can proceed with your comment, Ms. Christine.
Okay, thank you.
The mic, press the button, press the wait, yep. It's off. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, my name is Chris Kielb. I live in Menands, and I'm a retired epidemiologist with the New York State Health Department working on environmental issues. I spoke earlier. Recent meeting, some of us spoke about federal court findings based on data from the National Toxicology Program that showed that there's a risk associated with community water fluoridation for reduced IQ in young children. At tonight's meeting, I will continue to present evidence of the ineffectiveness of fluoridation as it relates to cavities among children. This evidence comes from New York State data as well as data from the WHO and the Cochrane Group. The first graph I presented before, so I'll just very briefly go over it. So it's looking at the percent of third graders with cavities by county, and the counties are ordered in blue by the percent that have fluoridation. So if there was a relationship, we would see some kind of difference there with the red line. There'd be more cavities down where there's less fluoridation and less cavities where there's more fluoridation, but we don't see that relationship. Now I'm going to go to the second two slides. The first one's called Decline in Fluoridation Effectiveness Over Time, based on a number of studies from data from the Cochrane Group, which is a respected group, internationally based, that does research on health prevention measures. So on the left, you see the number of fewer cavities with fluoridation compared with a non-fluoridated community. And you can see in the early 70s, there was a fair amount of reduction in the amount of cavities among young children. But as you go forward in time, that line goes way down to almost no benefit. On the next page, it's the same thing, except it's among older children, age 11 to 15. And again, you see the same trend where with their permanent teeth, there's a fewer number of fewer cavities. It's a little convoluted, but and you can see down at the bottom, there's almost no advantage to the treatment. So I just want to give a quick quote from the Cochrane report. It said, studies conducted in 1975 or earlier showed a clear and important effect on prevention of tooth decay in children. However, due to the increased availability of fluoride in toothpaste since 1975, it is unlikely that we will see this effect in all populations today. The next 2 pages summarize World Health Organization data, and they looked at tooth decay trends for children in fluoridated versus non-fluoridated countries. And the countries in blue are completely non-fluoridated, and the countries in red have at least 60% fluoridation. And you can see that the average decayed, missing, or filled teeth declines over time for both groups, but they kind of merge around 2020. And if you go to the next page, it's the same data, but they summarize the data to, they consolidated it to best fit the data, and you can see, like, in the beginning, around 1975, 1980, the fluoridated group had lower cavities, lower tooth decay rate than the non-fluoridated, but then they went down in both groups and merged around 2020, so there's really no difference there. Let's see, yeah. And lastly, I'd like to point to the last page of this. It's a summary of fluoridation's ineffectiveness published by the Fluoride Action Network, and I just want to point out a couple of high points there. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Some of the main takeaways are that there's other studies that are consistent with the findings that I just reported to you. And there's a number of studies that show no evidence that fluoridation in the water supply helps low-income families over other families or at all. And thirdly, the CDC and others, they know that fluoride's effectiveness is mainly topical, not ingesting it. And I think that's a really important point. The bottom line is that the largest, most recent, and highest quality scientific studies show no significant reduction of cavities in children. Thank you.
Thank you. Can the clerk please call the next speaker?
Tom Ellis.
Good evening, everybody. Tom Ellis. I live on North Pine Ave in the city of Albany. And I'd like to congratulate the city for putting in more speed humps, and I see more crosswalks being painted. I encourage you to keep this up. You know, we need a lot more, especially painted crosswalks. I'm here to talk about water fluoridation. Some of you may know that I had a letter printed in the Albany Times-Union on November 10th. And the title they gave it is, "Will Lawmaker Keep Promise on Fluoride?" And I'll read the letter. Last February, the Albany Common Council voted to approve water fluoridation, and Mayor Kathy Sheehan signed the bill into law. At the time, the bill's chief sponsor, Tom Hoey, promised he would work to repeal the law if a then-in-progress federal lawsuit concluded that fluoridated water is dangerous. Mr. Hoey said, according to WAMC, that if the court, quote, finds that fluoride is not good for the water, of course, myself and the rest of the council will withdraw the legislation to put fluoride in the water, end quote. On September 24th, a U.S. District Court judge in California issued his long-awaited ruling in Food and Water Watch versus U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. He determined that water fluoridation poses an, quote, unreasonable risk of such injury, end quote, and ordered the EPA to update its regulations. After reviewing dozens of studies worldwide, Judge Edward Chen wrote, quote, specifically, the court finds that fluoridation of water at the level presently considered optimal in the United States poses an unreasonable risk of reduced IQ in children, end quote. He also wrote, quote, the scientific literature in the record provides a high level of certainty that a hazard is present. Fluoride is associated with reduced IQ. The qualitative evidence is superior, end quote. Chen's ruling was based in part on the National Toxicology Program's systematic 8-year review of fluoride's neurotoxicity. That report, part of which was released in August, asserted, quote, with moderate confidence, end quote, that a large body of evidence shows fluoride exposure is, quote, consistently associated with lower IQ in children, end quote. I hope Mr. Hoey will keep his promise and sponsor legislation to rescind the fluoridation law, and the Common Council will pass it. Tom Ellis, Albany. So I'm going to give you this letter. I want it to be included in the record. I had another letter in the Schenectady Gazette on a similar vein on October 15th, but I won't read it here. I'd like that to be included in the record also. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Ellis, you can give it to Brian. Thank you.
Clerk, call next speaker.
Patricia Pierce.
Good evening. My name is Patricia Pierce. I live on Grove Avenue in Albany. Safe Water Albany has been coming here for about a year. We have given you much evidence with peer-reviewed studies showing that fluoride causes harm to our, not only to our citizens, to our children, but also to the environment. And there's a little benefit of ingesting fluoride. We showed you charts from the New York State Department of Health that compared fluoridated communities with unfluoridated communities, and there's really no difference. We told you about the federal lawsuit in 2017. It took 7 years for that lawsuit to end, which just concluded in March. Judge Chen took 6 months to make a decision. He weighed the evidence of both sides, and it was a tough decision for him to make. But he ruled, looking at all the evidence, he ruled that there is an overwhelming evidence that shows that fluoride causes an unnecessary risk of harm to children. And that's after seeing the evidence of both sides. And that's at the levels of fluoride that we currently have in our drinking water. The NTP, the National Toxic Program, in this fall, they also said in their publication that fluoride doesn't have much benefit and produces a lot of harm. The Cochrane Collaboration, which is an international group that's well respected in the medical community, they came out this fall, again, saying that fluoride doesn't really benefit us and it produces a lot of harm. We've given you all of our information. We've given you the studies. We've given you the 80-page report from Judge Chen, and you guys seem disinterested. You guys never asked us any questions. You never invited us to do a formal presentation. It's like you don't care. You don't hear us. And it's really disappointing. I feel like, our government has been captured by elite institutions that are often intertwined with big businesses. The majority of Albanians, we don't want fluoride, and you guys know it because you guys have received emails. A friend of mine and we went out, we got over 200 petitions in just a couple of hours saying that people don't want fluoride in their water. There was a blog on Nextdoor, and the majority of the people said they did not want fluoride in the water. You guys represent us. A lot of times you guys don't even listen to us. People are on their cell phones, they're on their laptops. It's disheartening to be here. We ask you that you rescind the order, that you don't put the toxin in our water. Fluoride is a toxin, we know that now. If you don't do it for the children and the poor people who can't afford, quite frankly, they're not going to be able to afford a filtration system. It's expensive. It costs hundreds of dollars to remove fluoride from the water. So you're going to be damning the poor also if you do this. If you don't do it for them, do it for yourself. The trend now is that communities, since this ruling, communities are actually taking fluoride out of the water because people are waking up to the poisons that are being put in our water. So we ask you from our heart that you do rescind this. I want to thank you, Sergio, for speaking up. You know, it's not easy to do that, and we appreciate it. And we wish that more of our representatives were more engaged in a conversation that is so divided. But we appreciate you, Sergio, very much, and we appreciate Joyce Love also for having the courage not to vote for fluoride. Thank you.
Thank you. That is the final speaker for this evening. So that is, public comment period is being closed. Moving on to approval of minutes from previous meeting, Mr. Kimbrough.
Thank you, Mr. President. I offer the November 4th of 2024 meeting minutes for approval.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to considerations of local laws. Ms. Frederick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I noticed local law K of 2024 and ask for its passage by roll call vote.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the local law?
A local law overriding the tax levy limit law for fiscal year 2025.
Thank you. Discussion on this local law. Ms. Frederick?
Thank you, Mr. President. This vote tonight is an effort to look at 2025 and combine our Capital City funding and our Empire State Plaza funding together, but also increase the ask by $5 million. Our city is overly burdened by tax exempt, where 60% of our property in the city is tax exempt, and so therefore we are in need of more state aid, and I do applaud the administration for pursuing more dollars and making that a permanent funding stream for our city. As part of our budget intent memo, which we will vote on later, we also request that this be reviewed at later points in time to hopefully increase as well in future out years, because our city does greatly need that additional funding to offset the tax exempt property that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, can the clerk please call the roll?
Adams.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Anani.
Yes.
Ballerin.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Farrow.
Yes.
Flynn.
Yes.
Frederick.
Yes.
Hoey.
Yes.
Johnson. Keegan.
Yes.
Kimbrough.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Zamer.
Yes.
12 in the affirmative.
Local law passes. Moving on to reports of standing committees. Mr. Flynn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight, the General Service Committee discussed Resolution 77, 7224R, and 128, 11224R, and came out with favorable recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. Ms. Frederick.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met on Wednesday, November 6th and Wednesday, November 13th to discuss the proposed budget. During the November 13th meeting, Local Law K of 2024 voted out with a positive recommendation that we just voted on. Also, Ordinance 28-101-24, Resolution 108-101-24R, and Resolution 123-111-24R voted out of committee with a positive recommendation.
Thank you. Any further reports, standing committees? Seeing none, we'll move on to ordinances introduced. Mr. Robertson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I notice the ordinance 67.112.24 and asks for its introduction.
Can the clerk please read the introduction?
An ordinance authorizing the sale of a portion of tax map parcel number 65.74-1-36 located between Livingston Ave and 3rd Street to the Underground Railroad History Project of the Capital Region, Incorporated, DBA Underground Railroad Education Center.
Thank you. Mr. Kimbrough?
Thank you, Mr. President. To referral to the council's finance committee.
Thank you. Continuing on, now we'll move on to ordinances held. We have Mr. Flynn.
Just for clarity, you are welcome to amend the 175324 if you'd like. That was there just advisory in case that happens.
I didn't. Can you repeat that?
Were you looking to amend ordinance 175324 to the version that was shown to council members at the previous meeting? It was just there as an advisory, just in case.
Yes, so ordinance 175324 as amended.
Okay.
The newest version.
All right. Is there any objections to the amendment? Seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Flynn. Mr. Anani.
Similar situation. It was there as an advisory note. If you would like to make the amendment to the ADU affordable housing ordinance,
Yes.
that's going to be discussed tomorrow.
Yeah. Is there any objections to the amendment? Seeing none. Passes. Thank you.
I'm out to lunch. All right, let me focus.
And now we move on to continue with ordinances held. We move forward. Ms. Frederick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I notice ordinance 28-101-24 as amended and ask for its passage by roll call vote.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the ordinance?
An ordinance adopting the City of Albany's budget for fiscal year 2025 as presented by the mayor on October 1st, 2024, and as amended by the Common Council herein.
Discussion on this ordinance. Ms. Frederick.
Thank you. I'm going to have these comments cover our amendments, and then when we get to the intent memo, I'll cover other items outside of amendments that we have. I want to first start by thanking our Finance Committee members and our other council members that joined us in the last month and a half to comb through the budget and really understand what our city's dollars and our taxpayer dollars are being allocated to run our city. I also want to thank our public that joined us at our 2 public hearings, as well as many public comment. We had a number of comments received that were very valuable to our assessments. And finally, I want to thank the budget director who joined us at pretty much every meeting and our various departments that presented to us to further deep dive into their budget figures. As a body, we are going to pursue, as this ordinance, additional amendments to the budget. While we do think that the budget was sound and appropriate, there are some additional items that we do believe that were lacking that we would like to add as a council. Those include adjustments in upgrade or additions to the city clerk's office to provide additional furniture and fixtures. Also, as part of our discussion with animal control over a month ago, we did hear a process deficiency in which animal control has to reach out to the city clerk's office to appropriately determine if a problematic pet is registered with the city. That is just inefficient in itself, so we are pursuing additional funding to have animal control actually have access to the system to no longer have to go through that process. We are also pursuing additional funding for the Violence Prevention Task Force. This council made great efforts towards establishing that task force as required by the equity agenda, also staffing that task force by bringing in that coordinator role to really have it operate effectively. And now that Violence Prevention Task Force, newly reinvigorated, has subcommittees, and each of those subcommittees do have needs in terms of outreach, training, and education. And so the funding that we are pursuing there would allow them to conduct those efforts. And then we are pursuing additional funding for the Albany Fire Department. We have Albany's bravest in our fire department, and they require a lot of training to do what they do. And so while they do have a training line this year, we have heard from their union members, and we are supportive of an additional increase to training so that they can bring some of that in-house and not have to go to the suburbs for particular trainings. We are also pursuing $70,000 for a workforce ethics and culture audit as part of the Workforce Ethics and Culture Ad Hoc Committee established by Councilmember Keegan and staffed by a number of members on this body. We have learned of many egregious allegations within our city department that deserve a thorough and deep review to make sure that we are fully addressing and understanding the issues at hand within our city. And so we are putting $70,000 for the city's auditor office to oversee an audit process in fiscal year 2025. We are also pursuing additional $70,000 for the Community Police Review Board. We want to thank the administration and our staff for the efforts towards bringing the CPRB into the city. That was a big transition for all of us, and that's still ongoing, and it's much needed for them to transition into our city as they are losing their administrative agency at the end of this year. With that, we do understand a need for additional contracted services in this upcoming fiscal year to make sure that they are also operating to their best capability. And so the budget that they received as part of the proposal was not enough, and so we have added an additional $70,000 for them to carry out their services. And then finally, we are pursuing an additional $125,000 to go under the Common Council for housing-related services. We are definitely in a housing crisis, and as a body, we have pursued many legislations to try to address that issue. This $125,000 will be subject to council vote in the upcoming year, and we will use that to address the housing crisis or find a solution. Although the number is small, I do think our vote and what we decide to do with it will be impactful. And so with that, those are our amendments that we are pursuing for this year. We also have a couple positions being changed and the like based on the administration's request. Again, I want to thank everyone for their efforts on this budget, and I do hope that you will stand with me and support the vote this evening. Thank you.
Mr. Adams.
I just wanted to very quickly say thank you to our chair of the Finance Committee of being able to do it again, another year of balancing what's presented to us and the goals or aspirations that the council has and what we would like to see done. I think this budget season, we've heard a lot from various groups. Again, you ran down the list. But what I wanted to say is that for the people who came in during this budget season to speak to us about their concerns and about some of the projects that are happening, just to remind them that we are listening and that we hear what you are saying. Sometimes it's tough to prioritize very important subjects and matters, but I believe and know for a fact that this council each year during our budget season is advocating and fighting tooth and nail for every dollar that we can get in order to bring these wins back to our constituents. And again, just wanted to say thank you, and there's still much more work that needs to be done, and we will continue to do that work. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Unani, and then Mr. Ballerin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. First, I want to thank the Chair of the Finance Committee and finance members for the due diligence, and also thank the mayor and her staff, as well as various department heads for their hard work and diligence in producing our city's budget. As with any proposed budget, this was a work in progress, and I'm proud to see a number of items being included in this year's budget. All throughout last summer, we've heard about particularly infrastructure issues in the 10th Ward, mostly with sidewalks and also road improvements. And you go anywhere in the city, there's always a pothole. And it's good to see that in this budget, there's been $16.1 million in streets and sidewalk improvements. I'm also glad to see that there's been a $1 million to expand traffic speed reduction. I remember when we first got on the council, many colleagues was advocating for the speed humps, and I remember the traffic safety chair was saying that we cannot use it to reduce speed in our neighborhoods, but I'm glad to see that through the advocacy of this council, we're going to have continue to invest in pedestrian safety as we move forward. And I'm actually glad to see our first speed hump this year right before budget in the 10th ward, so I'm excited about that. When it comes to public safety, while some of the crime is going down, when it comes to homicides, people still in our city don't feel safe, no matter where you are. And I think that it's important that we invest in programs that help make sure that individuals feel safe in our city. And I'm glad to see that there's a public safety investment, which include $1.7 million for gun violence elimination. I'm also glad to see that the mayor included 5 non-sworn positions in APD to take on administrative tasks and, quite frankly, free up some of the police officers because, again, they don't want to deal with the homeless population. And I think that it's important that they catch the bad actors and continue to deal with individuals who are terrorizing our city. So I'm glad to see that investment being made. As chair of the public Parks and Recreation, and the mayor and I, it's something that I'm always proud to see whenever there's an investment. It's particularly in making sure that the city of Albany have world-class recreational facilities for all residents to use. See a record of $2 million to be invested in, Corner Preserve, Pitch Pine, Shaker Park playgrounds, and build a state-of-the-art in Washington Park playground. And most importantly, in the 10th ward, we will be receiving $900,000 to make improvements to Madison Park. I'm really excited about that, and I know a lot of neighbors, particularly Carolyn Keefe and other Pine Hills neighborhood leaders who have been advocating for this funding, and I'm glad to see that it's going to be included in this budget. Another thing that we're seeing in this budget is that the living wage is increasing in this budget. In 2018, the living wage was $15.52. This budget includes a minimum wage of $18.99. Quite frankly, post-COVID, no one should be making less than $18. And again, there's still more to be done to make sure that people are having a living wage. But I believe that it's a step in the right direction, that everyone in the city, at minimum, will be getting $18.99 in this budget. I will continue to advocate for, particularly in the 10th Ward, Richfield Park improvements. This is a park that is near and dear to my heart and many in the 10th Ward heart. There's something I'll continue to work with administration to make sure that we make the investment that's needed. Because again, when it comes to parks, this is about improving the lives of our children and families, but also a safe place, safe environment, new equipment that individuals could utilize. I will continue to advocate for municipal internet. Last year's budget, we had a new position to address ways that we can provide reliable access to residents in our city. Municipal Internet Commission put out their report detailing various approaches to develop this type of service, and I believe that it's time for the city to act. This could be a game changer, providing a much needed service to all neighbors, making our city a smart city and destination for tech sector firms with good paying jobs. No kid should live in a home without having access to the internet. And I believe that it's incumbent upon city government to work with the private sector to really get this done. Again, I want to thank the mayor and city officials towards producing a budget that really move our city forward. I'll continue to advocate for state funding, ensure that Albany receives its fair share permanently. And I know that, yes, the governor and the legislature have already supported this in the past, but we should not be begging year in and year out, and we need to make it permanent. And hopefully, with a united front combined with persistent advocacy, we can ensure that the state provides Albany its fair share. And then the last two things, particularly, something that after the vacancy study, there are some people who reviewed it and had some concerns, but I want to thank Faye Andrews and her department for doing the best that they can. And I believe that in this budget, setting $125,000 aside is a step in the right direction. And I hope that when it goes to committee, we can have further discussions to best address the housing crisis that the city of Albany is facing. There are individuals who are struggling in silence, And I believe that this council can continue to lead when it comes to protecting tenants, providing affordable housing, and creating more home ownership. So with all of that, I will be supporting this budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also want to echo the thanks and appreciation for Councilmember Frederick and all the work she did as chair of the Finance Committee to take all the information that was brought in and also to find compromises in our democratic system, which is not always easy. So thank you for your leadership on that and your willingness to listen to all sides. I also want to thank all my colleagues on the Finance Committee, Councilmember Adams, Phil, and Keegan. I know those many, many long nights that we spend these last few months, and we've had some very good conversations, and want you to know that I appreciate those conversations. I appreciate your willingness to serve on that committee and take that time away from anything else you could be doing to make sure that you know, we have a good deal process that is needed. As well as all of my other colleagues who attended the meetings and all the department heads, and of course Gideon, budget director, for his willingness to work with us, and the mayor and the administration for their willingness to find compromise when it's needed and to work with us. You know, the process is not always neat, you know, but democracy isn't neat. It's messy, and it means we have back and forth and we have discussions, and we learn a lot through the process. We learn a lot from those who come in and speak to us about issues that are going on that we may not be aware of, or things we need to look at. I'm glad that the fire union came in and told us that there was more funds needed for training. I'm glad we were able to find those resources. I'm glad that we were able to address some of the concerns regarding licensing and software for our animal control teams, so we can try to make it easier for them to do the difficult job that they have. So a lot of these initiatives, I'm very glad we're able to move forward. I am glad we put forward $125,000 to address housing issues. We as a council have been ahead of the curve on this issue. You know, we're the council that passed good cause eviction with the mayor's support. I just want to remind people that was something that was a mayor's initiative back in 2022. So we have worked together on many of these housing issues for quite some time. So I look forward to those collaborations, and I look forward for us to still be ahead of the curve on these issues and moving that in a better direction for our residents. With all of that said, I think I also have to address what's not in this budget that we have very little control over. That also came in as part of the conversations. We have several of our unions that still have contracts that have not been settled. And I want to urge that our administration and our legal team and our budget director do what needs to be done to settle those contracts. Because when we have our staff come in and tell us that they're looking at this budget and there's no increase for any of their people, we can do better. And again, it's not something we as a council have any authority on. I want to make sure that's very clear. I think, I want to make sure that is very clear on the agenda. But I want to also make sure that it's very clear that we want to encourage the administration and the union leadership to get back in the table and try to find solutions because those union members deserve an increase in their budget lines, because those increases in those budget lines are increases in their paychecks and increases in their families' ability to be able to live a prosperous life. So there were several unions that did not have that increase this year. Our non-uniform police unions, our blue-collar union, and our telecommunication, our dispatchers union. Those are the three that jumped out to me. I'm sure there may be others, But those were the three that jumped out to me while we were going through the process, that I think we want to encourage the administration to settle those contracts. We want to encourage the unions to get back in the table. If they're not at the table, I'm sure they are at the table, but to try to get these settled so that their members can get the benefits. And also, I'll be honest, it's not getting easier to make ends meet now. So we need to find ways to be more creative and to be able to support our people, because I've said it throughout the finance committees, but these are not jobs that a lot of people are looking to get. These are not remote jobs. Most of these jobs are in-person jobs. People have to come in and do the job, the difficult job, day in and day out. So I hope we can get these contracts settled so we can get our people a little bit more in their paychecks. But overall, I appreciate everybody's work and everybody's efforts to get this over the finish line. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Keegan?
I'm going to make it very quick. I just want to reiterate my colleague's sentiments towards Councilmember Frederick and all of the work that she does as chair of the Finance Committee. It's not just the last couple months where we've all been involved in budget. She meets for months and months and months before that with administration to help build the budget. And we all owe her a debt of gratitude. She's also incredibly savvy at navigating all of our personalities. And I truly, truly appreciate the work that she did this session, last session, and the previous session before that. We are always faced with really significant challenges. Albany is a lean city budget-wise. We don't have lots of buckets of cash to move around to meet with advocates' demands once that budget gets announced. And year after year, Sonia has managed to build consensus between everyone on the Finance Committee, build consensus with the administration, and be able to prioritize finding additional funds for those additional asks. So all I wanted to say was thank you for all of the hard work that my Finance Committee team members put forth this session. And I also want to acknowledge Councilmember Farrell for her ability to find a resolution on the housing issue that resolved the concerns of all of the folks who were debating whether we were going to actually look to increase that funding. So that's it.
Ms. Farrell?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to add my thanks in with everyone else's. As Councilmember Ballerin pointed out, we don't actually have a huge amount of input in the budget, and that is something that is in statute. It's not something we have a lot of input on. However, the budget process is one of the most important things that we do as a council, because what it does is it brings daylight to the budget, and that is essential. And the council functioning well and having that healthy budget process also enables us to make a difference in the budget, which these amendments did. So huge thanks to my colleagues, but I also have to give huge thanks to Councilmember Frederick. It is a tremendous amount of work to be the finance chair. And it is year-round work, but it's also during budget season, we do not see all of the different things that she does. And it's deeply appreciated. It allows us to have more input on a budget than we normally should have, which is incredibly important. I also really want to thank all of the department heads for coming in. It's not easy to come up in front of us. I like sitting up there. On the one side, it feels one way, and on the other side, it feels completely different. And they put a lot of time and effort into doing the presentations. They deal with a lot of questions from us, which are very important to ask. And I also really want to thank our staff. Without our staff, I'm not sure where we would be in anything, but it's really highlighted during the budget process because, again, this process brings daylight to the budget. It allows the the citizens of the city of Albany to see exactly what is going into their budget in a very unique way, because it allows the question and answers to happen. And I know I get feedback from my constituents, a lot of people do. So just a huge amount of gratitude to all of those involved. For my colleagues, we spend a lot of time in meetings. When you're on finance committee, it's kind of pushed a bit over the top. So huge appreciation to everyone, but Sonia, tremendous appreciation for you. Thank you.
Seeing none, can the clerk call the roll?
Adams.
Yes.
Anani.
Yes, co-sponsored.
Valorant.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Clark.
Yes.
Farrell.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Flynn.
Yes.
Frederick.
Yes.
Hoey.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Johnson.
No.
Keegan.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Kimbrough.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Robinson.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Zamer.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
12 in the affirmative.
Ordinance passes. Continuing on, Ms. Fredericks. You have 2 amendments.
Thank you. I move to amend ordinance 38-102-24.
Okay. Any questions about the amendment? Seeing none, amendment's passed. Go ahead.
And I also move to amend ordinance 61-102-24.
So any questions about the amendment? I believe our clerk told them what the amendments were. Seeing none? Thank you. Continuing on with, I think that is it for ordinances. Mr. Kimbrough.
Thank you, Mr. President. The rest of the ordinances on the agenda are held.
Thank you. Continue now on to resolutions introduced. Mr. Flynn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I notice Resolution 127, 112, 24, and ask for its passage.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Common Council recognizing November 2024 as Epilepsy Awareness Month.
Discussion on this resolution. Seeing none, can the clerk please call the roll?
Adams.
Yes.
Anani.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Valorant.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Clark.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Farrell.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Flynn.
Yes.
Frederick.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Hoey.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Johnson.
Yes.
Keegan.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Kimbrough.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Robinson.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Zamer.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
13 in the affirmative.
Resolution passes. Mr. Adams.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to notice resolution 128, 112, 24R, and ask for its introduction
And passage.
and passage, excuse me.
Okay. Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Common Council honoring the life and legacy of Jeffrey S. Fryer Sr. and renaming Slingerland Street in his honor.
Discussion on this resolution. Mr. Adams?
Just to, I guess, make it somewhat brief, today I'm looking to get this resolution passed in honor for Jeffrey Fryer. Jeffrey Fryer was a father, an educator, a coach, and just all around community advocate. He was a deacon at the Metropolitan Baptist Church here in Albany for many years. Jeff played for the St. Rose basketball team as well as coached at several of the other collegiate universities and schools in the area from RPI to Bryan Strand College. Jeff's involvement with Green Tech, though, was the bigger thing to talk about because as soon as Green Tech came online years back, Jeff was in the school working, running a mentor program through our fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi. From then, Jeff continued to assist with young men there at Green Tech, providing scholarships, helping young men go to college here in the area. And so just wanted to get everyone's support in this. Jeffrey Fryer means a lot to the Green Tech community and to the neighborhood, so just wanted to acknowledge his legacy today. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further, Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. President. Jeffrey Fryer is definitely somebody that was special to our community. I met Mr. Fryer as a parent. His son and daughter went to Toast, and I developed a close relationship with his family. I was deeply saddened when I heard that we lost him, but he was a heck of a person, and he just cared. He was just genuine, and you know, I'm a big Albany guy. You know, I represent for our people, for the natives, but this was a guy who came into our community and became one of us. And when I first heard about this, you know, I gave it a thumbs up. So I'm honored to be a part of this conversation today, and I look forward to the smile that it's going to bring to his wife and their kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, can the clerk please call the roll?
Adams.
Yes.
Anani.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Valoran.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Clark.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Farrow.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Flynn.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Frederick.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Hoey.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Johnson.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Keegan.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Kimbrough.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Robinson.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Zamer.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
13 in the affirmative.
Resolution passes. Continue on with resolutions introduced. Mr. Anani.
Thank you, Mr. President. I notice resolution 129, 112, 24R, and ask for its introduction.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the introduction?
A resolution of the Common Council declaring its intent to act as lead agency for the State Environmental Quality Review of Ordinance 279124 and declaring it a Type 1 action.
Are we passing this? We're passing this. For passage, Mr. Anani?
Yeah. Wait.
Sorry.
It's planning. It's going to planning.
That's for passage here. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Kimbrough. Plan? Which one?
It's under for consideration. It's okay.
Just for clarification, that resolution is just of the council's intent to act as lead agency. It doesn't actually indicate a passage of anything, just that the council will take on the review.
So we can pass it.
So it doesn't.
We can pass it.
Our lawyer?
Yeah, it does not need to go to planning. There'll be another resolution in the future to accept the declaration itself. That one would be, this is to start the process. This declares us as the lead agency and declares it as a Type 1 action. So that will then give myself and Brett the authorization to go through and perform the secret review, and then we'll present our findings to the council to accept.
Mr. Nani.
Yeah, so sorry about that correction. Thank you, Mr. President. I notice resolution 129, 112, 24R, and ask for its passage on the roll call thereon.
Thank you, sir. Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Common Council declaring its intent to act as lead agency for the State Environmental Quality Review of Ordinance 279124 and declaring it a Type 1 action.
Discussion on this resolution, even though we just had one. Seeing none, can the clerk please call the roll?
Adams.
Yes.
Anani.
Yes.
Valoran.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Farrow.
Yes.
Flynn.
Yes.
Frederick.
Yes.
Hoey.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Keegan.
Yes.
Kimbrough.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Zamer.
Yes.
13 in the affirmative.
Resolution passes. Continue on with resolutions introduced. Mr. Nani.
Thank you, Mr. President. I notice resolution 130, 112, 24R, and ask for its passage on a roll call thereon.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Albany Common Council expressing concern regarding the reduction of Amtrak services to New York City.
Discussion on this resolution. Mr. Nani.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wish we didn't have to do this resolution, but I am upset. Amtrak proposed a reduction to serve between Albany and New York City corridor during this holiday season and for years beyond is unacceptable. The Albany Rensselaer Station is one of the top 10 busiest Amtrak's in the country. And to inconvenience thousands of riders in Albany and the greater capital region is just unacceptable. I get that there are critical repairs that need to be addressed, but there has to be a better approach than to disproportionately put the burden on less trains in our region. I urge the Amtrak, New York State Department of Transportation, the MTA, the Federal Railroad Administration to work on a better approach to address this issue than to put less of the burden on the Albany area. We in Albany are trying to increase tourism, facilitate businesses between regions, and ensure as many transportation options are available to our region. Let's not create more of hurdles to these goals. I want to thank my colleagues for supporting this resolution, and I urge Amtrak to do the right thing. Thank you.
Adams.
Yes.
Anani.
Yes.
Valorant.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Clark.
Yes.
Farrow.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Flynn.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Frederick.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Hoey.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Johnson. Keegan.
Yes.
Kimbrough.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Robinson.
Yes.
Zamer.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
13 in the affirmative.
Resolution passes. This is all for introduction of resolutions, so we'll move on to resolutions held. Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I notice resolution 77.72.24R and ask for its passage.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Common Council honoring the life and legacy of Gail S. Elliott and renaming a portion of Northern Boulevard in her honor.
Discussion on this resolution. Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is with great pride and a deep sense of responsibility that I speak in favor of renaming a portion of Northern Boulevard in honor of a remarkable advocate and community leader, Ms. Gail Elliott. Ms. Elliott's life was a testament to the transformative power of advocacy, particularly in two critical areas, the health and well-being of our community and the development and empowerment of our youth. Through her tireless efforts, she not only touched lives, but created a legacy that continues to shape Albany today. For over 25 years, she served the Albany School District with unwavering dedication. She believed that education was not merely about academics, but nurturing the whole child. She worked to ensure that every student, no matter their background, had access to opportunities that could unlock their potential. Her passion for young people extended beyond the classroom. As director of the Summer Youth Employment Program for over 2 decades, she worked to ensure Albany's youth were not just employed during the summer months, but equipped with the skills, confidence, and vision for their futures. She understood that when we invest in our youth, we are building healthier and stronger communities. But her advocacy didn't stop with education and youth development. She recognized the vital connection between health and opportunity, particularly in underserved communities. Her long-standing service on the board of directors for Whitney Young Health Center reflected her deep commitment to ensuring that every person in Albany, regardless of income or circumstance, had access to quality health care. Ms. Elliott knew that healthy communities start with access to care and resources. She was an advocate for health equity long before it became a common call to action. She understood that our youth, to thrive, needed not only education and opportunity, but also a strong foundation of health and well-being. Her work on behalf of health and youth was not just professional, it was personal. She poured her heart into everything she did, from organizing family-centered events. She was considered the matriarch of the West Hill community. She was a tireless advocate and a voice for the voiceless and a source of strength to all who knew her. By renaming the street in her honor, we are not only commemorating her life, but also making a statement about the values she held dear and the values that we should hold dear as the city of Albany. We are celebrating the critical importance of advocating for health equity and youth empowerment. And we are reaffirming our commitment to the causes that she championed throughout her life. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to tell a funny story about Miss Elliott. I went to Arbor Hill Elementary School, and back in the days, you used to get paddled if you did wrong in school. And many times I found myself getting paddled, and I just remember, if anybody knows about Arbor Hill, it's a school at that time with no walls. So people got hit, and they said, ouch, and it echoed throughout the building. So you just didn't want to be, you didn't want your voice. And so I would try to just, you know, muster up, and she would look at him and say, I don't think he got enough. So, you know, I she wasn't my favorite person as a young kid, but, you know, sometimes, and as you get older, you understand people a lot better. And I would say, and when Miss Elliott left, I really felt her presence in our community. And, you know, I'm honored today to be able to see her grandkids and how strong they are and how much of a presence that they have in our community. And that's just a reflection of her. You know, her kids, I grew up with them, and you know, I just know that that will be a real celebration of the work that, the body of work that she left, and I'm in full support of this. So thank you for bringing this up, Councilman.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, can the clerk please call the roll?
Adams.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Anani.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Valorant.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Clark.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Farrell.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Flynn.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Frederick.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Hoey.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Johnson.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Keegan.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Kimbrough.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Robinson.
Yes.
Zamer.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
13 in affirmative.
Resolution passes. Continuing on, Ms. Frederick?
Thank you. I notice Resolution 108, 101, 24R as amended and ask for its passage by roll call vote.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Common Council establishing the locally adjusted base proportions of the homestead and non-homestead classes for property tax purposes pursuant to Article 19 of the Real Property Tax Law.
Discussion on this resolution. Ms. Frederick?
Thank you. I just want to acknowledge the work of the committee in reviewing this. We know that this is proposing a 2% real property tax levy increase, but we asked many questions to understand the necessity and also the thought process behind the tax increase. We do stand in support of this, and we do recognize that this burden will shift to non-homestead. So under this tax levy increase, non-homestead will see a 5.1% increase to their share, and the homestead class will see a 0.3% decrease. So that burden is shifted to non-homestead and not, and actually benefiting under this levy increase our homestead homeowners in the city of Albany. That being said, the impact would be anyone who saw an increase of less than approximately 60% as part of their property tax reassessment should see a decrease in taxes under this levy for the new year. So again, appreciate the committee's questions and thorough understanding of this process, and hopefully you will support this resolution this evening.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Hoey?
Thank you, Mr. President. I was at the meeting. It was very informative. One thing I didn't realize, and sitting here for 7 years, is 64% of our taxable property is non-homestead. So it's actually, the homeowners are only, 46%. So it's really, to me, that was a shock, that I thought there'd be more homes than businesses or, commercial property. So I do support this. I appreciate what the committee did to try to equalize it a little bit from that 64 to bring it down. So thank you, and I will be supporting it.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, can the clerk please call the roll?
Adams.
Yes.
Anani.
Yes.
Valorant.
Yes.
Clark.
Yes.
Barrow,
Yes.
Flynn,
Yes.
Frederick,
Yes.
Hoey,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Keegan,
Yes.
Kimbrough,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Zamer,
Yes.
13 in the affirmative.
Resolution passes. Ms. Frederick.
Thank you. I noticed resolution 123, 111, 24R as amended and ask for its passage by roll call vote.
Thank you. Can the clerk please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Common Council outlining its actions and expressing its findings and intent concerning the City of Albany's 2025 budget as proposed in Ordinance 101-24.
Resolution. Ms. Frederick.
Thank you. So I know I've taken up a lot of time this evening with going through this, but I do want to share our additional budget intent memo items outside of the amendments that were proposed. So again, we heard from a number of departments and a number of residents around concerns in our budget intent memo. We have listed out the following: a recommendation to consider enhanced compensation in future contracts for Albany Police Department, as well as a strong request to settle our outstanding union contracts as soon as possible, as those are impacting our blue-collar workers disproportionately, and they haven't had a raise in many years. We are also expressing our general concerns with revenue streams, and we are concerned with future years beyond fiscal year 2025 with the impending closure of the landfill in 2028. We do see a budget gap that will need to be filled. We recognize that the speed zone cameras are producing a revenue stream and making our streets much safer. However, after a year of practice, we would assume that the revenue anticipated will decrease as our drivers learn how to abide by the law. We also acknowledge the historic investments in our recreation, including the West Hill, Hoffman Recreation, and Lincoln Park Pool that will have generational impacts for years to come. But we also call on the administration to consider additional recreation for our city, including an additional indoor recreation center for the South End, and also transforming Bleecker into a multi-use complex. We are also asking for a more thorough and enhanced look at our city park improvements. While we understand that strides have been made towards ADA compliance, they are not fully inclusive at this time. So we are asking our administration and our Parks Department to really consider having wheelchair accessible equipment as well as wheelchair appropriate surface areas so that we are truly embracing inclusivity in our parks. We are asking for further review and due diligence on our Department of Engineering. While that was a big improvement for this year in its development, we do recognize a strong tendency towards outsourcing a lot of the work for engineering, and we would like to see that come more in-house. So in future years, we encourage the administration to look towards expansion of that department so we can thoroughly execute the vision of that department. And then we are also acknowledging the solid waste management plan. As mentioned, the landfill will be closing, and we encourage the administration and our Department of General Services to make sure they are thoroughly considering all options when we talk about what's next upon the landfill closure. Finally, although we don't have the ability to add positions, we are encouraging the department to consider additional support within the Animal Control Division. They came to us, they expressed their concerns, and we do believe that they need additional support to help with the growing animal concern that we have in our city. With that, I do want to end by thanking our city staff that took part in this whole process with us. I do want to thank Councilmember Keegan for volunteering at many times to help draft this budget intent memo. And I do want to end with thanking Brian Jimenez here, who really carried out this process for the last month and a half and kept us accountable, kept us organized, and made this process very smooth. So I thank you, Brian, for your efforts.
Further discussion on this resolution? Seeing none, can the clerk please call the roll?
Adams.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Anani.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Valorant.
Yes, co-sponsor.
Clark.
Yes.
Farrell,
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Flynn,
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Frederick,
Yes.
Hoey,
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Johnson,
Yes.
Keegan,
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Kimbrough,
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Robinson,
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
Zamer.
Yes, co-sponsor, please.
13 in the affirmative.
Thank you. Resolution passes. That's it for the resolution. Mr. Kimbrough?
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
Miscellaneous, Miss Business,
Oh,
Miss-
I'm sorry.
Mr. Johnson?
Getting ahead of myself.
No problem. Yeah,
Rest-
you're supposed to hold the
rest
res.
well, we're at the end of it, so.
Thank you. Miscellaneous unfinished business, Mr. Johnson has raised his hand.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight, I came here, to say a lot what was on my mind. And earlier, when we were recognizing the soccer players, they said a name, Melissa Hasty, and it put me in a whole different space. And I didn't want to talk about Melissa when it was time to talk about the soccer players, but I wanted to take the time to talk about Melissa Hastings, who was the director of early childhood education. And she spent many, many days at Giffen. And, I always remember her by her smile. And was saddened to hear that we lost her, but how I came about hearing it was off of a former student of mine's page. And, he was talking about Miss Hasty in a manner, he described his relationship with her as the longest positive relationship that he had. And that just touched me, and because that's a title to have in this young man who's had, a lot of ups and downs in his life. And I felt the need to say something because she, put forth 125% every day. And we know how important it is for some of our kids to start off education on the right foot. And her death was just, one of those times that, you see a person and then you get a phone call and they're not there. And I just wanted to take this time to make sure that we highlight the body of work that she put forward to the Albany City School District and let her family know that she left some big shoes to fill. The Hasties trusted their kids. They came down to Saturday morning basketball. And, if I wouldn't be surprised if 10 years from now, the son and the daughter are teachers helping people. So, sometimes you don't get a chance to tell a person how special they are. You lose that opportunity. And tonight, I just wanted to, go in a different direction and just pay tribute to Melissa Hasty and the effort that she put towards our kids. And lastly, I didn't make any comments about the budget tonight because I didn't want to take away from the effort that was put in by the people that sit in night in and meeting after meeting for the Finance Committee. I didn't want to make you feel like I don't appreciate the effort that you put forth in the role that you take as the chair of the Finance Committee or the people that come to hear the same old every year from these department heads. I honestly feel that until we start asking the same questions that are asked to us when we come up with great suggestions on how to fix stuff, the first thing you always hear is, well, where are we going to get the money from? And, I understand why we can't ask the mayor where's she going to get the money from because she's in control of the money. But I think I've been hearing from year after year that the council only has limited say-so in the budget. I think it's time for us to have a conversation about that charter that establish the control in the mayor's office like that. If it's a need for us to have more input on how things operate fiscally in the city, we need to have that hard conversation so we don't have to keep on compromising the same neighborhoods over and over. You know, I'm gonna be disappointed until there's a community center in the south end of Albany. Our kids, and you know, the neighborhoods that I think of, they really are no different. But it's a difference in the south end where we're just surrounded by everything that you don't want in your neighborhood, and a whole lot of it. So, you know, please know that sometimes when I come here, it's hard not to say anything because I've been saying the same things over for years and they've been getting ignored. But on a lighter note, I am happy that the kids in the West Hill will soon have a community center. I am happy that kids at Hoffman will have a community center. But please, we can't keep on forgetting about the South End. If people don't want to hear me complain, do something about my concerns. And then we can work together. But you can't expect me to work with you when everything that I want, don't nobody want to hear about it, and they just use the information that's shared with them to circumvent our community and their needs and wants. All of our kids should have a place to go to that's safe environments for kids. It's important, and I've advocated from day one, not saying not just the South End, every community should have them. So until that happens for the South End, you know, I'm going to be concerned, and I'm going to let my passion come out when it's needed. But again, I respect everybody's effort and everybody's time that they put forth for this budget. I just feel like the second ward could be done better. Thank you.
Mr. Hoey. Thank you, Mr. President. I've been pretty quiet the last couple of months with the people that anti-fluoride people coming in. I mean, we had public hearings, we had meetings. I mean, this was a long process. It took almost 3 years. We had almost 50 health professionals, dentists, doctors from our area. And just this week, the governor has signed legislation, last week, the governor has signed legislation, and the state health commissioner has stated that having a public fluorinated water system is the best public health thing that's happened in the 20th century. So just stay the course, and you know, the bottom line is going to be, you know who won the election, you know who's going to be who's being nominated for the Secretary for Health and Human Services, and you know what he said. You see it in the paper. He's against vaccinations. He's against everything that, you know, public health people have shown. And I'm not going to argue. I'm not, you know, he's not appointed yet, but you know, just think about when they start talking about, well, this is poisonous and this and that. Chlorine is a poison gas. Chlorine was used in World War I to kill hundreds of thousands of fighters in the war. And we use it in our water supply in a regulated way. So just stay the course. If you need me, I'll bring in more health officials. But I just want to make sure I'm sitting here biting my tongue, but what can you do? I think we did the right thing. I mean, there was 13 of us voted for it, and you know, there's many of us grew up in New York City, and we had fluorinated water, and I don't see any IQ drops among my fellow colleagues here. So thank you.
Darryl?
Thank you, Mr. President. I have to begin echoing Councilmember Johnson's words about Melissa Hasty. I was fortunate to work with her when I was on the school board, and the number of children's lives she impacted, I don't know how one could possibly measure it. In addition to staff, incredibly supportive of staff. We were so incredibly lucky, and it meant a lot to hear how much the soccer team also valued her. So thank you for bringing that up, because I think that when we lose someone so great, it's important to say their name as often as possible and remember them. I wanted to speak briefly on the fluoridation. Please actually, if you're actually starting to believe some of the things that they are saying, please actually read the things. and ask questions. So when I recently went to my dentist's office, and I've talked to several dentists, none of them turn in any data on cavity rates. So wherever the different data pieces that they're getting, it seems very consistent with all of the data that they're giving us, which is teeny tiny portions of larger data that is skewed to what they would like us to believe. Somebody recently shared, like one of my constituents recently shared an opinion piece saying, hey, maybe we should, saying that RFK Jr. might be right on fluoride, and I actually clicked on the links and read the studies. None of the studies said that there was a problem with fluoride. The studies actually studied the issue, the people pushing back on fluoride, and said, if you read medical studies, that they couldn't necessarily each point be perfectly refuted, but on a whole, they thought that fluoride was the right thing to do. So read the data, read the studies, and if you actually read the studies, you will be, you're going to see something different. And as Councilmember Hoey pointed out, New York City's water has been fluoridated for 70 years. I kind of think that if all of these claims were happening, we would actually have a whole public health crisis in New York City, because that's 8 million people over and over again. Something would have come up, I think. But I also, speaking of water, today I had the privilege of going on a full tour of our water department. I went all through the underground with the Beaver Creek combined sewer overflow. I went to the reservoir, and then I went to the water filtration plant. I was completely blown away by the entire tour, but also as much as you think you understand, especially us, we actually are intimately involved with these things. It's well worth a tour. And I highly recommend anyone, colleagues, staff, taking the tour. And if there was an interest of several members actually wanting to go on a tour or even a portion of it, I very happily would help set it up. I think it was incredibly valuable, well worth the time, and also I had no idea what went into water filtration and all the different nuances of things. It's really fascinating. We're also incredibly lucky to have the water supply that we have and the system that we have, because it was just designed very well in the 20s, and they've maintained it very well. So just wanted to note that, because I think that it could really benefit the council if a bunch of us in staff who are not to force any staff that want to do it, but if you're interested in a field trip, it's well worth it.
Mr. Nani?
Thank you, Mr. President. I will be brief. I just want to remind people about the upcoming Black History Month celebration that we usually have. We're looking at dates for the first week of February or the third week of February. So just kind of think about some of the people that you want to recognize in your respective wards. Just want to remind individuals. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Adams?
Yeah, just real brief, few things. The woman that came and spoke earlier from Albany Housing, I'm not sure how many people are familiar with that building, but that building has been a nightmare for residents for many years, but within this past year, that building has gotten even worse. The amount of homeless people who are going into that building, sleeping into that building, there's grown adult men who are going into that building and robbing old ladies in the stairwells, at their doors. That type of stuff should not be happening. I believe Councilmember Kimbrough works with Albany Housing, so I'm hoping that a discussion or something can be done, or a solution can be presented to some of the residents there, because it's really unjust and unfair what's going on to those people that live there and the conditions that they're having to suffer through. The second point of mention, again, in regards to the fluoride, I've been trying to advocate and assist this group to get people to understand the detriment and negative side to fluoride. I respect everyone's opinions and views here, first and foremost. But again, when it comes to this topic, regardless how you personally stand on it. Again, a lot of people here in the city of Albany are not for this. They have definitely made that clear. You can have your personal positions, but I think it's very important to still listen to your constituents and do your best to do research on topics that you may not be familiar with. So in regards to the information that they have been sharing, if you're not understanding of something, then ask questions. But for myself, I've spoken to my dentist. I go to Aspen Dental right on Central Avenue. I asked my doctor about fluoride. They have expressed to me that, again, drinking fluoride does not do anything. If anything, topical, putting it on your teeth is the best way to get the benefits from it. And also just the most recent study or law that was passed by the judge that spoke about the unreasonable or unreasonable risk, putting your kids in unreasonable risk. So however you decide to stay on that topic is your choice, but for the people who live here, I'll continue to advocate for those people, because people who did not grow up in New York City do not feel that way. I grew up in New York City, and I'll tell you, I have tons of cavities, so fluoride didn't help either. So thank you, and I'll yield.
And the Albany Housing Authority does have a board of directors.
Yeah.
That's where, Mr. Kimbrough?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
Aye.
You know, so me and Sergio were kind of upset at their version. You're like, you know,